Okay, the Epstein files. You've definitely heard the name, you've seen the headlines everywhere. But what if there was a way to just cut through all that noise and get straight to the facts? Well, in this explainer, we're not getting into the drama or the speculation. Nope. We're giving you the keys to the archive itself, a purely technical guide to understanding and navigating the official documents at the very heart of this story.
So, what are we even talking about when we say the Epstein files? Well, on January 30th, 2026, the Department of Justice didn't just open a file cabinet, they basically opened a floodgate. We are looking at a staggering 3.5 million pages of documents, plus 180,000 images and 2,000 videos. This isn't just some data dump, it's a literal mountain of digital evidence.
And yeah, this isn't just a neat little collection of files. It's an ocean of raw data. And when you're staring at an ocean, you need a map, right? That is exactly what we're here to do today. Provide a clear, simple guide to help you navigate this unbelievable release of information. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to tackle the sheer size of these files. Then, and this is crucial, we'll show you the one and only official source you can actually trust. After that, we'll map out the archive structure, we'll dissect that massive 2026 release, and we'll even look at a legal fight that helped create some of these documents in the first place. And finally, we'll give you the tools you need to explore it for yourself. All right, first up, a flood of files. And we're calling this the largest disclosure in recent history for a very good reason. So you might be asking, why this insane data dump all on one single day? Well, it all comes down to the Department of Justice's Collect Everything strategy. See, to comply with a brand new Transparency Act, they pulled in millions of pages from the FBI, federal prosecutors, and even the Bureau of Prisons. You can think of it as the ultimate consolidation of evidence, all in one place.
Okay, so now that we get the scale of this thing, the next big question is, where do you actually find them? And that brings us to what is, honestly, probably the most important part of this entire explainer, finding the one official and safe source for all this information.
I need you to pay close attention to this, because it's the most critical piece of advice we can possibly give you. In a world just full of misinformation, there's only one official source for these documents. It's the Department of Justice's Epstein library at justice.gov/Epstein. That's it. This is your single source of truth. So how can you be absolutely sure this is the real deal? You're going to look for two things. First, the .gov in the domain name, that's reserved for official U.S. government agencies. And second, the HTTPS at the beginning of the URL, which means it's a secure connection. These are like the digital fingerprints of authenticity, and they guarantee the files you're looking at are the real, untampered documents. Just one more thing you should know about the official site. Be ready for an age verification gate. The Department of Justice has classified the entire archive as restricted because, frankly, the content can be pretty graphic. So you'll have to confirm you're 18 or older before you can proceed. Okay, let's move on to our third section, mapping the digital archive. We're going to break down its four main pillars. You see, this isn't just one giant random folder of files. The archive is actually organized into four really distinct pillars. You've got the huge 2026 release from the Department of Justice, then the court records from the Giuffre v. Maxwell civil case, then older documents that came out through the Freedom of Information Act, and finally, disclosures from the House Committee's own investigation. Each one of these pillars tells a different part of the story. Okay, now let's zoom in on the biggest piece of this puzzle. Section 4, Anatomy of the 2026 release. We're going to deconstruct this data dump. To make any sense of that huge 2026 release, the DOJ broke it down into 12 data sets. It helps to think of them like chapters in a really, really long book. Sets 1 through 8, those are your foundational documents, things like FBI interview reports. Set 9 is where you'll find the really important emails. Set 10, that's all the visual media, heavily redacted, of course. Set 11 is all about the money and the travel, financial records, flight logs. And finally, Set 12 is kind of a catch-all for everything else. So we've seen the what and the where of the files, but now let's talk about the how. I mean, how did some of these documents ever even see the light of day? And that brings us to this fascinating case study, a legal battle over emails that literally shows how these records are born from conflict. You know, a huge part of this archive doesn't come from a criminal case at all, but from a civil lawsuit, Virginia Giuffre versus Ghislaine Maxwell. And the person who really opened the floodgates on those particular documents was senior U.S. District Judge Loretta Preska.
She's the one who ordered them to be unsealed and released to the public. The battle lines were pretty clearly drawn between two very powerful legal teams. On one side, you had the firm Boies Schiller Flexner, representing the plaintiff, Virginia Giuffre. And on the other side, you had the firm representing the defendant, Ghislaine Maxwell. This legal battle pretty quickly zeroed in on one thing: emails. Giuffre's team pointed out that Maxwell hadn't produced a single email from a super crucial 2-year period. And their argument was simple. In this day and age, how is that even possible? They basically put it to the court like this: it is extraordinarily unlikely that she would not employ an almost ubiquitous communication tool. In other words, where are the emails?
Well, Maxwell's lawyers came back swinging. They called the motion frivolous and vexatious, basically a waste of the court's time. Their position was crystal clear. There was no secret email account, so there were no secret emails to produce.
The whole fight really boiled down to one thing: a MindSpring email account. Giuffre's team claimed it was the central nervous system for Epstein's entire operation. Maxwell's team, on the other hand, said it was nothing more than a spam account for online shopping. You've got two radically different stories about one very crucial piece of digital evidence. All right, let's bring this all home and make it practical. Section 6, How to Navigate. This is your user guide.
Seriously, if you remember only one thing from this whole explainer, please make it this. Always, always, always go directly to the official source at justice.gov. Use it to find documents, but even more importantly, use it to verify anything you see floating around online. In a story like this one, the official source is your North Star.
Now, I'll be honest, the official DOJ site isn't the easiest thing to search through. That's where third-party tools can really help. Journalists and developers have built their own searchable databases, like the ones from Courier Newsroom and CBS News. These can be incredibly useful for finding what you're looking for, but just remember the golden rule. Whatever you find, always go back to the original PDF on the DOJ site to verify it's real.
So, where does all this leave us? The files are out there. The box has been opened. But you know, having access to information is one thing. Actually understanding it is something else entirely. And that is the real challenge ahead for all of us. Now that this ocean of evidence is at our fingertips, how do we even begin to make sense of it all? That's the question we're all facing now.